What if the weather is snowy? So if the weather is snowy, you would want to put on a jacket. So where are we going to handle that condition? So to handle that condition, you would need an another keyword called else if. So this is also going to take in a condition. Then we would have our action. So here we are going to pass in the condition if the weather is snowy. So if the weather is snowy, we want to wear a jacket, or we want to wear jackets. So if the weather is snowy, we want to wear jackets. So now you can see here that we have like a chain of conditions. So the first condition is going to check if the weather is raining. Then we take an umbrella. Else, if the weather is snowy, then we wear jacket. So if it is none of them, then we don't need to take an umbrella nor wear a jacket. So our if else statement can contain multiple else ifs, because let's say we have different variations for our condition. Let's say the weather is cloudy, or the weather is breezy or something. So we can have multiple else if conditions for our chain of conditional statements, but we can only have one if statement, then one else statement. So that is something I want you to take note of. So we can only have one if statement and one else statement. Now, you can have this for, like, let's say for any other scenario also. So let's say let age be equal to 18. So we say if age is 18, so number 18 in this case, then we want to give driver's license. Then here we would say else. So that means if the person is not 18, then giving we are not giving we are not, let me just say, we are not giving driver's license DL. But here we can see here that this condition doesn't really make sense, because we are only checking if the age is equal to 18. So what if the person is above 18? So here we are going to say if age is greater than or equal to 18. So when we use this condition, it is going to check if the age is 18 or above, then it would give driver's license. Else, so that means if the person is less than 18, then we are not giving driver's license. So here when I run this, because the person is 18 years of age, so we'll be giving the person driver's license. But if I change this to, let's say, let me change this to 20, and we will still give a driver's license. But once this goes below 18, then the else statement becomes triggered. So we can see here that the conditional statements go in hand with the comparison operators, which are your greater than, equal to, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, and so on. So for conditional statements, you need comparison operators. So you might be wondering why we need comparison operators. It is not just to get true or false. So we need them to perform some action. So we need them to perform some action after checking after comparing two variables or two values. So um that is what we have for conditional statements. If you have any question here before we move on, that you can ask now, because we'll be moving on to for and while loops. So if you have any question at all with the with conditional statements or anything before that, you can ask now. Okay, so I would take that as no questions. So we can move on to for and while loops. So in programming, we are always trying to make lives easier. So let's say we want to create a program that counts from 1 to 100. So let's say we want to create a program that outputs 1 to 100. So we won't just sit here and start typing console.log 1, console.log 2, console.log 3, all the way to 100. No, that doesn't make sense. So this is where our for and while loop comes in. So loop statements in JavaScript, they allow us to execute a block of code repeatedly until a certain condition is met. And what is the condition we are talking about here? So the condition in this case, where we are counting from 1 to 100, is going to be when we hit 100. So that's our condition. We don't want to go above 100. So there are a lot of other scenarios where you can have like other conditions. So you just need to find out your condition from whatever code you are trying to run. But what we just need to understand is that loops, they help us execute a block of code repeatedly. So, and once we know that, now to count from 1 to 100, we can use either the for statement or the while statement. So we can use either the for loop or the while loop. And the syntax for our for loop is this. So I will just say I, then number or num dot length, then we would have this. So let me just leave it as this. So this is the syntax for our for loop, and your for loop has three main parts. So the first part is the initialization. So here we are initializing the variable that is going to be used inside of our for loop. So this variable I here cannot be accessed outside of the for loop. So we use this variable for the initialization of the for loop, and as you can see here, we are starting from 0. So you can start this loop from any number. So let's say we can start from 1, we can start from 4, but generally you either start from 0 or you start from 1. So let's just leave that as 0 for now. Then the second part of the for loop is our condition. So just like the example I gave earlier, where we are counting from 1 to 100, our condition was going to be when we hit 100. So the condition here, we can say when I is less than 100. But if you are trying to count to 100, you can't say when I is less than 100. So we can say when I is less than or equal to 100. So when we say equal to 100, that means our loop is going to reach 100. Then the last part is going to be the increment. So we can either increase by 1. So when we have I plus plus, that means we are increasing by 1. Or we can decide to increase by 2. We can decide to increase by 3. So let's just look at a simple example to start with. So let's say I is equal to 0 when I is less than 100, I plus plus. And the action we want to perform here, so the piece of code we want to keep repeating, is to log the variable I. So as this for loop is going through each iteration from 0 to less than 100, and as it is incrementing along, we want to keep logging the variable I. So when I run this program, I'm expecting to see a bunch of numbers. So the numbers here are starting from 0, so all the way to 99. But here we are trying to print from 1 to 100. So what do you think is going to change? So first off, we need to change our initialization, which is our starting value. So here we will change the initialization from 0 to 1. So when we do that, this is going to print from 1 to 99. So if I scroll up here, you can see that we are printing from 1 all the way to 99. But I want to print to 100. So I need to add equal to this. So I am saying when I is less than 100, that is why it is stopping at 99 and it is not reaching 100, because 100 is not less than 100. So 100 is equal to 100. So I would need to add that to my condition. So I can say when I is less than or equal to 100. So it should keep printing the value we have there. So now you can see that we are reaching 100 all the way from number 1. So those are the three parts we have for our for loop. So we have the initialization, we have the condition, and we have the increment. So once you understand these three parts, you can then modify your for loop however you wish. So yeah. So once you have that, your for loop can be as complex as they come or as simple as they come. But once you understand that the first part is the initialization, then the second part is the condition, and the last part is the increment. So let's say we want to look through an array of numbers. So let's say we have an array of numbers here spanning 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, just random numbers. Um, so let's say we have this array of numbers, and I want to go through every number in this array, and I want to stop when I find a number that is equal to a certain number. So the first thing I would need to do is try to go through all the numbers in this array one after the other. And the concept that can help me with that in JavaScript is a for loop. So they are loops. So the loop here is going to be starting from 0, because programming generally starts from 0. So when we are dealing with any array or list or whatever, we should start from 0 because we have the 0th element. So I would show you that, but let's just complete this first. So the next thing is my condition. So okay, so the next thing is my condition. Then my condition here is to go over the whole length of the array that I have, because if I don't go over the length of the array, we might not find that number, because the number might be at the end of the array. So I need to make sure that I am going through all the numbers in the array. And to do this, I would simply say norms dot length. So norms dot length. So this would go over all the numbers in the array.